Peace, everyone. You are now tuned in to the City Sultan podcast, where we discuss spirituality, leadership, and the divine masculine. I'm Bliss.
I'm Blue Lotus, triple threes, emphasis on the
Yeah,
three.
yeah.
Emerald Stone,
This is
Walking
King
Crystal.
Rod. This is King Rod.
Hmm.
Boom.
Nice. Good to have y'all brothers gathered here. This is the first episode. We're kicking this off, man, and it's going to be beautiful. Today, we're discussing leadership qualities, and we have 10 that we're going to discuss tonight. Focus, honesty, positivity, confidence, decisiveness, ability to inspire, effective communication, accountability, empathy, humility, and one extra that we have is punctuality. Which kind of plays into accountability.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, Brother Bliss, what is the leadership quality that you most resonate with? What are the three leadership qualities that you resonate with?
For me, it would have to be honesty, positivity, and empathy.
Why those three? What resonates with you about those three?
So I say positivity. I'll start with honesty. The importance of honesty is like being in your truth, living in your truth and being true no matter what. At all moments, just remember to be completely true to yourself and to others. And as Don Miguel Ruiz says in the Four Agreements, it's like being impeccable with your word, which is like one of my favorite books. And it's kind of like impeccable means without sin. So it's like not sinning against yourself, and sin in a sense of completely going against yourself. So when you're being dishonest, you're going against yourself, your spirit completely, when all we need to do is just live in truth, and be honest. So that's why I feel like it's very important that we all remain honest, as best as we can, because it's all just a lesson,
It's almost as if you can't have any foundation without truth. Like if you don't use truth, then you have no solid foundation. So if you are a leader trying to build a foundation and you're not using truth, then you're building a foundation that's easily, how they say, when I tell the truth, I don't have to think about what I'm saying. I don't have to remember what I said.
Right.
You don't have to remember what you said.
You're not making something up. Yeah.
You ain't even got to remember what you said, they say.
Right. Because
It's coming from flow, from source. It's coming from the heart center. It's coming directly from what you feel, your home vibration, your authentic, raw, genuine self.
Exactly.
And the thing is, it's like you
purity.
can feel when
Correct.
Maintaining purity.
I love
you
that.
feel when somebody's not being true to themselves. You know what I mean? So it's like, if someone's a leader and they're trying to build a foundation or try to build an organization and they're not living in their truths, as somebody who's following them, I'm going to feel that. And I'm going to, basically, it's going to go from the top down, from the leader to all the followers.
Exactly.
Everybody's not going to live in their truth in totality.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It all depends on the leader, and the vision, Go ahead, Blue.
And pardon. Yeah, I was gonna say to further elaborate on that. A lot of people are just in fear, fear of responsibility, but more or less fear of what others will think. That sense of that external perception, like outside looking, and a lot of people they'll have to build that up within themselves. So simply speaking, my mom always told me, Brandon, there's just some people that just won't like you for whatever reason. You could be nice and pleasant and pleasing, but it's life, But just taking on responsibility, and being realistic with the scenario.
It's funny. I heard that
I
same thing.
agree.
Someone told me that as well. Like, yo, some people just won't like you, and they said, you know what? They don't like you because you excite their demons. And I thought that
I like that.
But
They
you
don't
know,
like you because you excite their demons.
you know,
That's interesting.
sometimes what it is too is that like people won't like you because you're a reflection of what they can never be or what they think they can never be. So instead of
Mm,
working on themselves because lack of consciousness, they project it outwardly. You know what I mean? And they call it,
right.
you know what I mean? But love is knowing, and honesty moves out of love, because
Mm,
honesty is like, listen, whether
yes, indeed.
whether it's gonna hurt or not, I have this feeling of love and this knowing that it's all gonna be all right in the end, regardless. And and
Mm,
fear is not knowing. So fear is not knowing, but love is knowing. So when you move out of
mm,
fear, it's very hard to be honest. You know what I mean? Because it's not clear.
mm,
But when you're moving on
right.
love, it excites a different part of us that is just the natural flow of things.
it's like you're coming from your core. For me, I think about a scenario where you know, where it was like, for example, you talked about you're not being truthful because you're in fear, right? Right. Sometimes you'll be with a
Mm,
feminine. Let's say when we're in our younger days, right? We were with one feminine and we were with another feminine, and we didn't want to tell the one feminine that we were with the other feminine. We didn't want to tell her the
man.
truth. We didn't want to be honest because we was in fear about, losing out on how she would think of you, how you be perceived
Mm,
and not be true to yourself. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, even those scenarios, the thing is that when you said love is
mm,
truth, if you love her enough, you love her and respect her enough to let her know, yo, this is what's going
wow.
on. I'm gonna let you choose. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Wow.
Like,
Wow, wow, wow.
I found
Bro,
it
that was
that,
an example that I was gonna give. That's funny.
wow,
That
mashallah.
was gonna be my example.
A
Because
full
I didn't
trial.
recall like the first moment when I learned honesty, but I was like, that was definitely a factor of like, that I knew like being honest like helped, just being very straight up in the beginning of any kind of relationship I got with a female. Like, this is how I'm choosing to express my love at the moment. And it
Absolutely.
really, just being that truthful upfront changes the whole thing. It like takes such a pressure off of having to play the game, because like there is no game now. It's just truth. It's just the honesty. And
Fact, yeah.
most of the time they're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay.
Absolutely. I found it in my
And life
younger
goes
days
on.
that when I found it in my younger days that actually when I did tell the truth, in my younger days, they actually like you more.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So,
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
so it
yeah,
was like,
because
yo,
you
It's
become the
amazing.
uncommon. You become the
right?
uncommon.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
most dudes,
Not
most
like
dudes are
the
not telling the truth. Most dudes are like, nah, I don't got no shoulders. You feel what I'm saying? Like, yo, baby, it's only
Mm-hmm.
you. And so they like, yeah.
Right.
exactly.
Uh,
Yeah,
right,
Mashallah.
yeah,
You know
right.
what I'm saying? Like, but
Mm,
we are ones, you know what I mean? And so it's funny, I learned that as well, because it's also as if when you tell her what it really
mm-hmm.
is, she's like, now it becomes a corner. If she chooses to stay,
Right.
whether or not she chooses to spend a time with you at that point, it kind of comes a point of like competition on who
Mm-hmm.
can get your attention.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, who
Oh,
kind of, yeah.
And
I didn't
But
even see
that's
it
a
like
whole
that.
different
Yes.
conversation. But we're gonna stay on
yeah,
honesty,
yeah, we're
Yes,
yeah.
gonna
yes,
stay on
yes.
honesty because even when it comes to business, you gotta be honest about how much money you have, how much time you can give, how much
Mm-hmm.
how much
Mm-hmm.
energy you can put into what you're building, what your
Oh,
teammates are like. You
yes,
gotta be honest about
yes.
about them, and they gotta be
How
honest
much
with
you
you.
can
So
bear.
yeah, how much you can give
Mm-hmm.
and how much you can receive right now, like for real. So
Right.
even in e-
Mm-hmm.
even in that, you got to be honest with your product. You got to be honest with your customers. Honesty is a
Mm.
really big factor in building anything. So whether it's from relationships all
Yes,
the way
yes.
to a business to a family, all of these things are very
To a
important that we
family,
maintain that
to a
honesty.
family.
For sure.
Yeah,
Mm.
and
Definitely,
I
that's
was.
definitely
Oh, go
leadership.
ahead. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I was just saying that's definitely one of the top leadership qualities. I was gonna segue into Brother Bliss. What do you feel about positivity?
Mm. Positivity, man. Oh, for me, that's one of my favorites right there. I would say that it's necessary to like be in a positive state because of the vibration that it puts you in. You know, when you're in a positive state, you get this charge, you know, whether it's like mentally positive or you're just choosing to have an optimistic outlook, you become charged now to attract anything really, you know, that you desire to manifest, you know, focusing on, let's say, solutions as opposed to having your mind just narrowed onto like what the problem is, you know, kind of looking, you know, getting a positive scope on it, right? And just vibration and continuing to allow like just what really truly meant for you to flow to you, you know? Like positivity is high, man, especially on a vibrational level.
You know with positivity if I because I'm so excited with that topic because that's one of them that resonates with me too because when you look at positivity, we always define it as positivity is any energy that is unifying, synchronistic, makes whole, and negativity is any energy that breaks apart, that deharmonizes, if that's even a word, but takes away from the harmony of a situation.
I believe so.
And you know you have the idea of a collective positivity and a subjective positivity as well, you know, because positivity is just any energy that's unifying. Like some would even say from a subjective point of view that someone is horrible as like Adolf Hitler and his army. If you look at it at an objective point of view, I mean, excuse me, subjective point of view, in that definition of positivity, they all wore the same outfit. They all walked with the same walk. They all were behind the same cause. Now, subjectively speaking, some of these dictators who have come together and done what collectively and objectively was horrible for the planet, they were using positive strategies in that definition. And then those people who
Mm.
were those people
Wow.
who are
Yeah.
negative to them in their subjective reality was America and everybody who was against them. Those became the
Yeah.
negative ones. So when speaking of positivity, I kind of have like a different definition of it now, you know, through the evolution where it's just like positivity now is whoever's with what we with right now, whoever's helping the cause, whatever that cause means, whether God put us on the yin side or whether God put us on the yang side. Now, you know, for viewers, this is not to say that any dictators were positive collectively. I'm just speaking
Yeah.
about from subjective reality.
Right.
In that definition, in the devil's reality, the devil's positive, and the
Yes.
negative
Yes.
is everything that's trying to
Yes.
stop it. So you know, anything that
Perspective.
adds, that brings unity, um in one's universe is positive to them. However, what is positive
Right.
collectively is that which unifies the whole thing.
Mm.
Mm.
And I wanted to further elaborate previously on when you was touching base on honesty. I wanted to connect that with effective communication. Now, Emerald, I know that's you right there, but that's a part of the business. You know, if the left hand don't know what the right hand is doing, that connects with honesty, and then that creates disharmony, distrust, and your business won't flow. Everyone's not attuned to the same vibration and frequency. You know,
Right.
like harmony. It needs to be under one accord. If not, it's sure
Harmony.
to fail.
Yes.
Yeah, it's sure to
Yeah.
fail.
All the what I'm noticing is all these leadership qualities are really tied into each other. You know, because even when
Yeah.
you said
Yeah.
harmony,
Right.
you mentioned positivity. You know, and in that is effective
Mm.
communication. In that is telling the truth and being honest.
Correct. Correct.
Mm.
To further elaborate it, if you view it from the perspective of sacred geometry, it's like you have the egg of life, then the flower of
Right.
life, you know, then at some point the vesica Pisces, and then it goes into the like
Pisces.
Metatron's cube. You know, so it's like a rabbit hole into another rabbit hole into another rabbit hole into another rabbit hole, but it's all interconnected at the same time. It's
Because it's the
all
city sultan. You need these things to be a sultan.
Mm.
You need these things to be a sultan. It's one personality.
Mm.
It's
Right.
one personality.
That's
It's
inferior.
one. It's one being. It's one energy. And I think I want to build off what brother M was saying about positivity in terms of it being a very perceptual thing. Is that for me, I go by a concept called I call aggressive positivism, where I go into a situation like no matter what the situation is, I'm going to be positive. Like I'm going to find the silver lining. Like the same, but coming at it in an aggressive way. Like let's say everything is going wrong in my reality. I have these trials, tribulations, this bill. I might get fired from work. All these things going on. I'm like, I am going to find the silver lining because I know there is a silver lining. Because I know that there is the law of polarity exists, I know that to every opportunity there is a disadvantage, and to every disadvantage there's an opportunity. So if I come to a situation I know and I have a challenge or a problem in my life, I know on the other side of that problem or challenge, there's a positive side. So that's what gives me an aggression. Like, yo, I'm gonna find it, I'm gonna dig, I'm gonna look
Right.
for whatever is positive in this situation because I know it exists. And
It's
so
there.
with that
Yeah.
aggressive positivist perceptual lens that I look at life, I have like a solution oriented type look, and I can put myself in that, as Brother Bliss said, that vibration of, it's like your vibration becomes magnetic. When
Yeah.
you come from that perspective, when you come from that perspective of positivity, you know what I mean, and positivity as in, yo, I'm gonna find what's good about what's the situation going on, because there is,
Right.
you know what I mean, like.
Yes, indeed. And
Optimism.
I just want
Mashallah.
to quickly tap in on that and further elaborate on that. That's you transmuting that energy for that scenario because you're fully aware of the polarity. You're fully aware, no matter the circumstances, setting, scenario, even if it's not going in your favor, you know that there's an alternative, but you have to seek further. And you just use that as the fire to keep seeking, and just keep going, keep
Aggressive,
searching. And
aggressive,
yeah,
aggressive.
that's
You
a
know what I'm saying?
beautiful
Like,
perspective.
that's
And
saying,
even
that
things going in your
same city
like
energy where
perspective.
somebody step on your Timbs and you like, damn, so what's wrong with you, bro? I'm about to,
Ah.
you know what I mean? That same energy when you trying to get on the train and somebody blocking you from the train, and you kind of just gotta get in a quick Heisman, like, hey, yo, bro, move, bro, and they look at you, yo, bro, you good? You know what I'm saying? That same energy, that same aggression that you use right there when you in the city, that's the same aggression that you need to use the challenges and the tribulations in your life.
Yeah, yes.
Amen. I
And
mean,
I love
that's
that.
a everyday practice, and challenge, it's also, I feel, coming from a place of uncomfortability, because once one is uncomfortable, then that allows you to grow and expand and evolve, try something new, even if it's like, don't just, and like I said, right now, I feel like as a collective, we're all moving towards that state of being of no more second guessing, just go, just do it, like Nike, just go, no speculation, no, like, no, you want it, go get it, it's
Brother
out
Blue, you
there,
said
make
something
it happen.
interesting. You said not to cut you off, brother, but no,
No,
just I
no,
want
you
to
good, you
expound on this. How you said uncomfortability. Yo, isn't it crazy how positivity sometimes is uncomfortable?
ooh.
Yep.
Yes,
And it's
yes,
like, isn't
indeed.
positivity supposed to be? It's
It's
supposed to
all
be a
perspective,
good thing,
you know?
but sometimes being positive and just being positive is uncomfortable. Can you talk about that, bro?
So being positive as being uncomfortable, it's
Yes.
when I feel you're in scenarios to where, like, you're fully aware of the generic energy of the setting, to where it's deemed one way, and you transmuting it towards your liking, that your outlook or whatever you're going to produce in that moment to transmute the energy, that it's best methods and best suited for that scenario, if that makes sense.
Yes, that
Basically,
makes
you
sense.
taking control of that entire situation as opposed to it taking control of you.
But
Not
Honestly, being
allowing anyone
positive.
other
you're not.
perspective to like influence it.
Mm-hmm.
Honesty and
kind of almost ties
positivity.
into
Mm.
it definitely ties into like empathy because let's say you're in that scenario, you realize, okay, I have to transmute whatever the scenario is into positivity. That means I have to be empathetic and have to know the
Mm,
energy of the situation to even feel as if I can transmute it to something else. You know,
Correct.
so I
right.
think that's where uncomfortability comes in. The uncomfortability comes in. I have to empathize with this challenge or this tribulation so I can get on the other side of it. You know what I mean?
So you can move
I have
through it.
to
Right.
feel that.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Because
Gracefully
unless you
too.
feel it out, unless you feel it out, you're never really gonna understand it. And if you don't understand it or understand it, then you'll never overstand it, overcome it. It'll just kind of be a blockage. So that the empathy definitely comes into play and just putting yourself like into it fully. Like if it's another person, putting yourself in their shoes, seeing how they feel about the scenario. You know, that's the key of empathy right there. It's like the core of humanity, you know, like the care that and love that we can show to another, and just letting go of the ego for a little bit, stepping outside of yourself and being like, okay,
Mm.
how does someone else feel about what's going on? Because a lot of times we get blinded by our own perception, and we forget that, there's a million other views of this same situation. Am I right? you know?
Word. And
And,
that's you exercising mindfulness of others and
mm,
being selfish, which is also a part of the lower three chakras, dealing with ego.
mm,
So
like
yeah, that's you ascending towards your higher chakras and primarily the heart chakra for
to the heart
compassion.
space, right?
You
Does
know,
anybody know the etymology of empathy? I wish we had that etymology right
I'll
now.
find
The
it right
etymology.
now.
Mm,
I'll pull it up.
yeah,
What
mm,
is the etymology of empathy? Where does the word empathy come from? Because I'm thinking about like empaths, but then I'm also thinking
empaths,
about
right?
empath being an empath.
oh, the
Mm,
internal, you mean?
Yeah,
So
it's like an internal path. Yeah, and being an empath is being an empath.
I get what you mean.
M,
I mean,
we
so
M
got.
it's like, okay,
for
I'm being.
M.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to give y'all the etymology. I didn't mean to cut you off,
Yeah, please.
You
but
good?
but
No, I hit that.
so I looked it up. Now it's kind of close to what you were saying because M is meaning in, and then
Mm,
as you said, brother, it's from the Greek,
You hit the
and
point.
the Greek word pathos, which I it kind of be characterized like path, but it pathos means feeling. So it's about being in feeling.
Inner feeling,
Yeah, and then
mm,
it went
feeling it out.
yeah, ein, and then it went into to German, which is Einfühlung, and mixed with empathia, which when it turned into Greek later, it created empathy. So
mm,
Hmm.
it was all about being within
Thank you for
path,
that.
within the feeling.
Mm,
Thank
mm,
you for that, brother
within the
Am. Thank you for
feeling of
that.
whatever's going on, not in the mind or the thought of it,
Mm,
but like submerging yourself in it fully, Because a lot of
Yep.
time the mind can even like block us from what the truth of, a situation is. All
mm.
these thoughts start coming in and, we start to get our visions clouded. But really,
The
we just got to feel it out.
the mind can't calculate the full truth. the mind the
Mm.
mind can't calculate the
I'm
full
gonna write
truth.
that one down.
It listen, the
Hold on.
mind is a
All
tool.
right.
Listen, the mind is a
hmm
tool. I mean, everybody could agree in different ways.
Yes.
People say that all is mental. I think all is all. Then mental was born.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
the mind is actually a tool that we use to overstand things, to transmit certain
hmm
messages from the what we call the subconscious, not even the subconscious, but the higher mind. It's a tool that we use
Yeah.
that tells us okay, this, it categorizes things. It's like this is circle, this is square, this is that,
Right. Right. Right.
and it
Yes.
puts things into certain placements. And the mind is like now even telling us that which we have learned, and it's projecting it outward into this physical reality. So even when we look at the mind, it's like the mind is a tool that we use, but there's something that even when your mind is gone, You know, even when your mind is gone, there's an awareness. You know what I mean? Even when you're speaking about higher mind, you know, there's an awareness that is there, that is witnessing it all. That's why I say all is all.
Yeah.
Then all gave birth
Mm.
to mental, and then all gave birth to spiritual and physical.
Right.
I respect that
I
perspective.
think all gave birth
I
to,
love that.
yes.
I respect
I
that
love that
because
perspective, my brother. Yeah.
that to removing the limits of that way of thinking, you know what I'm saying, all is mental is like, yes, all is mental, however, all is all. That's you
Right.
expanding, you know what I'm saying? Like let's
Beyond
get it
All
mental.
is.
all. You feel me? Like,
Brother,
bruh,
bro,
All
brother,
just
I want
is.
to play. I want to play devil's advocate though. But
Okay.
how can if I know
Mm.
if I say that all is mental, right? But that is a limitation, right?
okay.
And I say,
Mm.
and I want to move into this concept that all is all. How can I utilize all is all when I have control, quote unquote, control over my mentality, but I don't have control over all? Like, what does all is all? The concept. What is that? How do I utilize that?
Mm.
That
Okay, well,
understanding.
you
Uh,
want me to go, or is Emerald
who,
elaborate?
who
Yo,
who's that
I'm
for?
yo. Listen, I'm asking the question.
Well,
Mm.
I could say that
Mm.
I could say in regard to all all is the essence of is all is. I don't even say all is all. That was for just for conversation so that we can translate it. Really, all is. Period. Matter of fact, the period don't even belong there.
Mm.
When we're speaking about all, we're talking about it. We talking about
Mm.
the essence of. We talking about God, like we, like, and we
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about
yeah.
we talking about that which will exist beyond our
I feel
physical
you on that.
bodies, that which which exists beyond the form. And when we speak about mental or mentality, we're talking about that which translates pieces of that, that
Yeah.
which translates
Mm.
pieces of that. So you,
Makes sense of it.
so your mind would then be the translator or the transmitter
Okay.
Mm.
of something that is beyond. Because you ever hear somebody go out of their mind, or like, you know what I mean, their mind needs to expand, and they say all is expanding. I don't say that personally. All is already. How can you expand? Where you gonna go if you all? And how can
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
you know what I mean, like, and how
There's
could
no
you even
expansion.
contract, because where you gonna go? But
Yeah.
when you
Mm.
speaking about the concept of when people say all is mental, that's them using their mind to try to figure out the physical universe. But every time you think you got
Mm.
something, it changes on you in this physical reality.
Mm.
And we can even go back to the idea of the double slit experiment, but that they realize that when you observe a particle, you know, I mean, it changes the way that it reacts.
Yes.
So people are
Mm.
trying to
Mm.
constantly define what Allah is, what God is, and they'll say all is this. But once you put is this, once you say all is this, and you put something there, you've named something that 99% of the time you've named something that is temporary. When you give it something that's not
Mm.
eternal, like love or truth, or one of them foundational things, you're giving it something that's temporary. That's just
Okay.
my take.
Bro,
Okay.
this conversation's coming so full circle for me because as I was showering this rising, that was a conversation I was having with myself
Mm.
about the all, and like even putting anything after that is like limiting. It's like, but you can't even limit it. So it's like even trying to expound on what God is, it's just like God just is,
Just
period,
is.
or not even period, right? Like you said, it's
Yeah,
just
not
like
even
it just
period.
is. Because how can you even begin to define? Because as a human being, you know, look at the universe and how expansive it is. Like this
Word.
brain that we have, like how can we even begin to conceptualize the totality of what
Mm-hmm.
is
Mm-hmm.
It goes beyond
just
concept.
as a
Your
human being?
mind, it
It's
goes
Right,
beyond
endless.
concept, and your mind, you literally builds
right.
off a concept. Like everything is
And
conceptualized.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry,
Based
Blue.
on
and
something
I just
else.
it's all in flow, and I just want to tie in and elaborate further. Is that to me translates to one operating from left hemisphere of logic,
Mm,
practicality, and being able to identify and label, so it makes us in a form comfortable. We can identify, and as opposed to it allowing it to transmute and translate through the right hemisphere of feeling the experience,
Okay.
And let.
See, that's what I was. That's okay.
Fearing the unknown.
Yeah, and Rob, I'm still with you, King. I'm tying it all in. I'm tying it all in.
That makes sense because where I was coming from with it is the reason that we say all is mental is so that if I know that my finances is just a mental thing, my health is just a mental thing. If I understand that everything in my reality, my quote unquote all is mental, then I know I need to work on my mental to change the all. But when you transcend that and you say the all is all, how to use that practically? And what Blue said was that when you get to understanding that all is all, you stop trying to think about the all from a logic point of view and start to think about it from an intuitive and creative and imaginative point of view. And instead of it being factual, it being something that I can discover and create in the moment. Like I can create the reality as opposed to interpret it and deal with it because this is just what is.
Right. Mashallah. Perfectly
and
put.
that ties
Yes,
into
for real.
the masculine energy, the positive, negative, neutral charge, according to Taoism.
Yes.
You
Yes.
it's all balanced.
It's definitely like when you talking about all, like I heard one master, like my Sheikh Abdul Rashid, he said we gotta learn to overcome our own imaginations of what we think it is.
Ooh.
Like you have to overcome your own imagination of what you think it is. Like I'm telling you, people are
Right.
climbing the conscious ladder and they're at different levels, and this doesn't mean high or low. Some are over here on the left, some over on the right, some are at the top, some are at the bottom. There's no levels with this. As far as we see it, there's just like stations. So and in those stations, people see it differently. But when you overcome your own imagination of what you think it could be, and that's when we start entering into understanding all, which is very important for a leader to know, because a leader must know that something exists beyond their self, their very self. That something exists beyond their very self, and that they're moving in service for their self, and they must be confident in this. And with that being said, building on honesty and building on positivity, I think is definitely amongst the first things that we definitely need into our leadership. And I think that serves as a good setup. But I don't want to cut King Ra off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, King. I love the segue because we touched on honesty. You know what I mean? We touched on positivity. We touched on empathy a little bit. You know what I mean? And what you said is that once you have a certain, you have to even. I love that segue. You're saying you have to be confident in knowing that you don't know. In a sense, you know what I mean? Like I'm confident because if I'm confident in my knowledge, then I know everything. But if I'm confident in my not knowing, I'm open to learning. That means I'm confident in coming to life with a half empty cup. You know what I mean? So it can be filled up. That's where my confidence comes from. As in, my confidence comes in. I'm an expert and I'm an authority and this is about me and I'm a leader and I'm a king and confident and as opposed to confident and you know what, this is just
I'm
what
always
is.
a student.
Empathy.
As a so I definitely, Brother Emma, I want you to speak on what was the role of confidence in understanding and understanding the all.
Okay, well, I could say this is that amongst the two, confidence and effective communication, when dealing with confidence, just to kind of like highlight what you said a little bit about being confident in that you don't know, when that, one time there was there was a man I walked into in Union Square Station, and I remember at that point my confidence just as a young person was not necessarily that high at all. And some people get into the ego trap of not being confident for so long that they gotta just walk around saying, I'm God, I'm a king, I'm this and I'm that. And I was at that stage of consciousness. It doesn't mean that I'm not an expression of the divine who, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean that I'm not an expression of that divinity, but you know, if I am, then my reflection is too. And I felt that in walking, you know, when I walked into the train station and I saw that man, I was still in that consciousness of trying to get over some of the psychological slavery that my ancestors and me personally had to deal with. So I saw this man, and he had like a card. It was like a king of hearts and like a queen, and he made a hat out of it, out of cards, and he was selling a book. It was a poetry book. And oh, I see you, King. Yeah, I wasn't nasty. I had my uncle on. I was like, yo, I see you, King. And he said, I said, you a king of, I said, you the king of poetry. And he was like, oh no. He was older too. He was like, you know, in his 60s. It was like, he said, no, I'm no king. And I said, come on. I was like, yeah, but you know what I'm saying? I'm King Emerald. You know what I mean? You king who? He said, nah, I'm no king. He said, I'm just a poet. And I was like, huh? And he said, I'm just a poet. And I was like, wow. I said, all right, I hear you. And I walked off. And I realized that, you know, the confidence in this man was in the fact that he knew that he was here to serve, and he knew how he was here to serve. And he didn't need the blow up of the ego to feel as if he was at this illustrious state. I needed that at the time. And I was like, wow, okay. So when I saw the confidence of this man not needing to be something, but if we look at the word confidence, as we break it down, con comes from the word with, like we said the other day, arroz con pollo means rice with chicken. Con arroz con habichuelas means rice with beans. So when you look at con is with from the Latin word, and then you look at fidens, which comes from the Latin word fidem, which means faith. So confidence is all about walking around with faith. Now, faith in what? That's up to you. I feel that because I remember that we did want to touch upon, you know, some important qualities and how we learn these qualities and the importance of the qualities. And when it came to me learning about confidence, I had to learn that it wasn't that I wasn't confident. It was that I was confident in the wrong ideas. I had faith in the wrong ideas, because when you
faith in the wrong ideas.
doubt is faith misappropriated. That's in the power of perception. Doubt is faith misappropriated.
Yes.
So because when we get up out of our bed, we have faith in our legs. For those of us who have legs, who are blessed to have legs, we have faith in our legs to bring us to the bathroom and brush our teeth. We don't even think about it. We have faith in the fact that we gonna get up and see. For those of us blessed with sight, and you know, blessed that we have faith that when we inhale our next breath, that air's gonna come in. Let's take a breath on that one.
Give thanks.
Thank you.
And that's gratitude.
And I just wanted to further elaborate on that. Ties into humility with the poet, because he knew his purpose, and he has gained the experience to wherever the universe aligned y'all for a reason. He was already in his heightened state of awareness of self, that he's king in him being a poet.
Yes.
You know that was his poem.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Absolutely. No, to tie into what you're saying is because I at that point I had confidence in something I had confidence that I wasn't enough, but it was masking itself by calling myself a king all the time, having to call it, having to get away from that thing. But that thing you running away from, you really run it smack into, until you actually see what's going on. So he had so much confidence, like you said, to the point to where like, and humility to the point is like, listen, I know what I am. I know why Source put me here. you know, and we just here to, you know, we just here to
For
do the
me, I
work.
feel like, and jumping off of you, brother, and I feel like humility is definitely a very important leadership quality. Because for me, I think about, okay, if you have a tall man with long legs, right, it's easy to trip him up. You know what I mean? But if you have a man who is short to the ground, he has a lower center of gravity, it's harder to trip him up because he's more balanced. You know what I mean?
Balance.
So
Yeah.
what humility does is bring you more into a balanced state. For example, if everything's going good in my life, right, and I'm overjoyed, yay! And then something bad happens, I have so far to fall. Like I have so far to fall. You know what I'm saying? And something bad
Yeah.
happens because I didn't humble
Right.
myself. You know what? Okay, or it's just I feel like if you're humbling, just brings you back into that more balanced state, so that when the things come, I can maneuver a little better. For example, when I get compliments, I don't take them too seriously. I just take them at, thank you. I
Acceptance.
appreciate
Yeah.
that. I appreciate that. It's a balance. But when somebody gives me constructive criticism or says something negative about me, because I am in that humble state, if I see myself as, I'm the this and this and that, and I'm the king, and I am, and I'm the leader, and then something happens in my reality where I didn't perform at the level that I thought I could perform at, and somebody says something, I got so much more far to drop because I didn't humble myself. I'm not in the state. So I feel like humility as a leader is
Wow.
important because it brings you into the state where you're like, you know what? If I'm not basically looking at yourself as if, you know what? I understand that there are people out there who are better than me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be, they always say, if you're the smartest person in the room, that's a problem. You know what I mean? But if you're not humble, you would want to be the smartest person in the room.
That's a fact.
And so
And
you
how can
need
you
to
ever
be in a
learn?
state of what I want to, when you're in a state of humility, it's not, I feel like for me, okay, I'll say in my reality, this is what my problem with humility was. I'm such a high state of confidence in myself, and I love myself to such an extent. But then I was getting a lot of feedback that I need to be more humble because it was coming off to people as cocky, right? So I was at this end of the spectrum with my confidence. So I said, okay, let me be humble. But instead of coming here, I went all the way here to be humble, right? And so when I went all the way here to be humble, it started looking to people as if I was being self-deprecating, right? And now they're like, yo, why are you putting yourself down, man? Like, why are you not showing your talents? Why are you not? And I'm like,
What do you
damn,
want?
like almost like, damn, I can't
Right.
win. Like, I was just confident. But then you see it as cocky. So let me be humble. But then I overstepped it. And so now I've realized I've got to step of, don't try to be humble. Just be humble. So I don't try to be humble. I don't try to, you know what, match. I'm not trying to suppress myself so that you feel comfortable with my energy. I'm just going to
Right.
be humble, not try to be humble. You know what I mean? I think it's very important as a leader. That's just my own personal experience with humility. If
Well,
anybody else wants to
That
speak
ties
on
back to
humility
living
in their
in
life.
your truth. You know, that ties back into being honest with yourself, you know,
And
and being truthful.
confidence
And that's
too.
where your true power comes
Confidence.
from.
you know,
The
we got
confidence to be you.
a saying in Islam, when somebody compliments you, you go mashallah, alhamdulillah. So in other words, it puts you in
Right.
divine remembrance of the source of everything. Like, so it just puts you in remembrance of like where it's all coming from, that it's not coming from you, but it's coming through you, and you praying at the same time. Just
Yes.
mashallah. Like when somebody gives you a compliment. So, you know, like the Sufi sheikhs, especially like Sheikh Abdul Rashid, my sheikh, he be like, yo, we don't seek happiness. And people be like, what? He's like, we don't seek happiness or sadness. And we're like, what? He said, no, contentment though. He said, because contentment, he said, contentment, no matter what is seemingly good or seemingly bad happens, it's all
I'm
good.
good
And
with
if it ain't all good,
it's
something's
all
up with
good.
you. If it ain't all good, something's up with you. So
I would
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, finish up, then I want to elaborate on that.
No, yeah. I mean, I was done.
Okay, now, well, I was gonna say that leaves room, realistically speaking, for one that is aware of polarity and duality, to allow the good and the bad to enter. So this way, it doesn't really shift your internal being. You get what I'm saying? So when things don't go according to plan or how one expected it, you can just become focused with that setting, scenario, or situation and be as you need to be, and don't
Mm,
allow it to adjust or shift your energy. That's
mm,
the challenge, if you
Right.
ask me.
I
You
say,
know?
because you're
Right.
grateful, you're
Hmm.
content,
Right. Right.
you
Right.
know.
Correct, correct, correct. So,
Ooh,
however,
gratitude
it
should be on the list, man.
Hey,
humble, you know, and that's a
absolutely.
practice within itself too.
You know what,
Mm.
y'all are communicating so effectively right now that you know, y'all are
This, this is
I
what the universe
love the
ordained right here.
segues, man.
y'all.
Fantastic
Brothers
spirit.
call got the
Killing
master
segues,
of
my brother. I love that.
segue.
What was that, Rob?
I said, bro, you like the master of segues, bro. That's what I'm like.
Oh
That's what I'm
nah,
For
just calling
man.
you, bro. The master of
Mashallah,
segues.
real.
mashallah.
Mashallah, bro.
Mashallah.
That's his human ability right there.
I'm no
Word.
master.
But I just know for
Man.
the sake of time, you know what I mean. So, but
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah. I
regard
feel that.
to in regard to
That's decisiveness.
the right, but the next aspect that I really found powerful was the concept of effective communication. Now, I remember when I was about 21 years old, I would say I used to make up my own slang every now and then, and I'd come up with the idea of yo, these people, you know, if they're not clear, whoever's talking to me, if they are not clear, crystal clear, and I can't hear them, even when I try to hear them, even when I really try to pull in, then something
Hmm.
like in the frequency ain't right. It's not, they're not
Mm.
communicating properly. I don't know what it is, and generally it don't be good. It's like that thing I used to complain about when you walking in the hood and you see somebody go
Mm.
sour. They come out of the depths of the ground, like they come out of there and they trying to sell you some weed. Like, you know what I mean? For those people who smoke, they trying to sell you some weed with seeds and stems in them, and like they just like sour. You know that from this if you from the city, and like, but you could hear in the energy and in the frequency that something wasn't clear, that they, because you look at the word communication, I mean, come unity, bring it together, unification,
Mm.
communication. It's about bringing ideologies together, and effective communication is a very
Mm.
important topic because we was just at the throat chakra of the earth, which is Israel. We went over there,
Mm.
and the communications all types of out of whack, and I mean all out of whack, because you got the people who claim to be Muslim, the people who claim to be Jews, and the people that claim to be Christians over here fighting each other and arguing with each other, and that's what's happening at our throat chakra. And I had the blessing and the privilege of going with my Jewish friend Adam, who, you know, when you go over there and that don't even look right. You Muslim and somebody else a Jew, and y'all walking down the block together. Somebody asked, they were
Mm.
like, "Yo, y'all," and you know, we was it was me,
I love
Bashir,
that
my
y'all
wife.
did that.
It was me, Bashir, my wife, and Adam, and we walked into this place called Life out in Israel by the old city. And when we walked in, a guy, he was like, "Yo," he said, "Wait," he said, "You Muslim, right?" He said, "You Jewish?" He said, "You friends?" I was like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "Yo, we from the city." I said, "We from New York, man." I was like, "Come on, man." I was like, we don't see that." You know what I mean? So that was, I guess, alhamdulillah, that was our service to show the people in the throat chakra, in our throat chakra, what it means to be to community, to bring communication, and the type of and what communication can birth, you know, true
Yes,
Mm.
yes.
communication. So I think part of communication is not only talking as clearly as possible, getting your message across clearly as possible, but it's also listening. It's also putting in the energy you want to listen. And with communication comes education. You can't educate without communication. So even education, and with education comes more consciousness, awareness. So being an effective
and more confidence.
and more confidence and all of these things, because being an effective communicator means that you do the work to communicate. You don't just, and that's in any business. If you have a business, you marketing, you do the work to communicate. You're not just communicating.
I think what, like, one thing about effective communication is that you have to communicate on the level that they can understand.
Yes.
Because sometimes what you try to do is, let's say you go to the hood, right, and you like, yo, what's up, my brothers? Yo, I just came from a divine union out in the oasis of the parable of the paradigmic microcosmic aura of my being, and I just feel so ecclesiastically celestial. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you gotta be like it's not, that's not effective
Like,
communication to
It's not.
on a block. Sometimes you gotta be like, hey, yo, bro, I just had to drink and shit was crazy. Word, bro, facts. Like, that's the effective communication. You get it. Sometimes you gotta communicate at the level of understanding, and that's
exactly.
That's the work.
You know what I mean?
That's the work.
That's the work.
That's the work.
That's the work.
Simplicity, everybody can understand. You know, and that's why we even do the work to try to keep things simple sometimes too, because like you said, most ecclesiastical transdiffamous, fortuitous experience. You know what I mean? When you start talking like that, it's like you trying to confuse somebody. But when we take it to simplicity, that even a child can understand, then that that brings it to a whole nother level of empathy, compassion, because you feeling them, you there with them. So I think that's enough time on my end. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say that ties into the ability to inspire, though.
I want to segue and double back and further elaborate and tie in your experience when you went to the store with your Jewish friend and the guy was like, hold on, y'all friends. So you see that ties into the ability to inspire, because that's something that he was able to identify with. That was a newfound experience. That's out of the norm. That's not part of the norm in that society, in those societal standards. So y'all created and produced a new reality for him, and I feel that that's the ability to inspire. So not saying, who knows, he could have been biased or prejudiced, but saying that to say if he was, that made him at least see an outlook to at least say otherwise. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously with that initial reaction, that's not something that they're accustomed to seeing.
Right.
So y'all created like a
And that's why I think the ability to inspire is the ability to transcend yourself. Because when you were connecting with the Jewish brother, you did not see yourself as a Muslim and you seen him as a Jewish. You just seen yourself as I am. You did not see yourself as self. You know what I mean? So it was like, I feel like the ability to inspire, you really have to basically, you're showing up, and it's a level of vulnerability to and submission to express yourself in your fullest totality. You know what I mean?
It went from I am to we are.
Community.
Yes. I am because you are. And then I am because we are. And when you talk about inspire, we realize that when we breathe, we are actually breathing inspirationally. Because when you exhale, you are expiring. But when you are breathing in, you are inspiring.
Oh, well, if you look at the
I needed that.
Inspiration, inspire.
That's the jewel for the night, right?
That is.
Inspire, that's like in spirit. Like, you breathing in that spirit, that breath of life. I feel that. You putting other people in spirit.
Yes. And I think it's definitely like, it's you putting in the work, and you putting in the work with consistency and showing there actually is a process for it. Because, for example, like for me, a lot of people within my life, I see people inspired by how I just dance, how I express myself in my
Fire me,
movement.
bro.
You know what I mean? Because I abandoned myself. I stopped
Right.
being myself. I literally let go to the fullest, and I stopped being self-conscious about how I'm being seen, about how the movement seems, and I just become in the moment, and I
Become
find
dance.
that when I come back into it, people are looking at me like, bro, what was that? Like, bro, and I'm looking at them like, bro, I don't know. Like,
I
and,
feel
and,
you.
and it, we're both surprised by it. It's because I abandoned self,
Mm.
and I feel like that's definitely where, and when you do that consistently, that's where the core to inspire comes from. You know what I mean? When you're just willing to just give, when you're just willing to just give self, just give away, shut off the ego,
Mm.
and just give. You know, that's
I
inspiring to
want
me.
Wow.
to further tie in and elaborate on that because that ties into decisiveness and focus. For you to be in a heightened potential environment and state where you have the choice and free will to express yourself. So that's you
Mm.
using your decisiveness of fight or flight. Like, should I
Mm.
do this? Should I not? And when you do accept to
Mm.
do it, now you're in your
Mm-hmm.
state of focus because you're
Oh,
doing it willingly and organically and naturally.
flow state.
It's all tying in. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Mm.
And then
Man,
it's like, I think
my
also
brother,
it's like
my
why is it
brother.
important to have the ability to inspire as a leader? Is like, you know what, you have to sit there and you have to galvanize a team towards a mission that and a vision that and nobody can see yet. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's gonna take some time. You have to be able to. I feel like what's inspiring to me is if as you the leader, if you're not going hard, why are the people who are with you gonna go as hard? If they don't see you in the office, let's say you're running a business. If you're the first one to leave, you're the first one out the door. That's not
Mm.
inspiring. But if I'm leaving the office and everybody left at 5 o'clock and I'm leaving and I'm busting my ass and I leave at 8:30 and I look at your office and I still see the light on, that's
Right.
inspiring. You know what I mean?
Mm.
He's putting in the work. He's going hard towards the mission, towards something that none of us can see yet, and he's showing up and he's being consistent. I think consistency is so important in that ability to inspire as a
Yes.
leader. You know what I mean? And I think it's one thing is dangerous is that one reason that we don't want to be consistent in our routines is because one quote I learned, right? And it's a quote I learned from the Art of Seduction. It is
Mm.
familiarity breeds contempt.
Mm.
So what we try to do is we want to you always want to expand yourself, you always want to change and transform and refine yourself. But we sometimes we want to jump out of routines just so that someone doesn't become too familiar with us and feel like they know us. And it's just like
Mm.
I want to jump out of routine just to say that you don't know me. You know what I mean? As opposed
Mm.
to being calm and confident within yourself and knowing yourself, you know what, I'm gonna stay with my routine. Listen, I've been meditating for 15 years. I'm not gonna stop now because this person's looking at me like, yo, you're
Right.
still meditating? You're still doing that? You're
Right.
still on that, bro? Like,
You know
wow,
what
it's
works
been
for
15
you.
years.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Exactly.
You know what works for you. That's it.
And yo, I want to tie in accountability and punctuality with the scenario you created with the boss putting in the OT, putting
Mm.
in the blood, sweat, and tears because now that coworker is seeing, yo, he's holding himself accountable for
Mm.
this business to keep this business afloat because he knows wholeheartedly that there's work that needs to be done, but he's not gonna be lazy and he's not gonna make an excuse of,
Mm.
well, I'm scheduled from 9 to 5. I'm able to this is
Yes.
completed in totality.
Yes.
Then I go home. You know what I'm saying? So that I feel that
Mm.
ties in precisely with accountability and punctuality. And punctuality by him setting the tone and setting just the example of how one should probably think, yo, who's watching, or let me, you know what I'm saying? So it could just be that coworker that, let's say, one night and I know that, oh, shit, still here? Like, I thought he was home cooking dinner for the kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, so him, his natural, organic, raw, and essence of him just pointing knows is what needs to be done. So I feel that ties into accountability, like self-accountability and self-punctuality. And as within, so without. So as he's, you know, expressing that from internal, is going outward. And then it's just expand, and it becomes a ripple effect. And then that boosts the team morale. It's like, yo, he's really put his blood, sweat, and tears into this, you know. So then it's like that make one be like, yo, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm gonna push a little bit more harder, yo. You know what I'm saying? Like a little goes a long way. You never know how the other person may perceive it. You know, that little, you know, gesture, that little action that you've done, yo, I did like a forest fire with. Yo, man, know how that potential of energy of what they perceived, how they may work on a project that same night or push to go a little, I feel resonates with them. So that just ties in precisely with accountability.
It's crazy. When I time on time is late, and late is fire. I said, wow.
That's real.
Wow. You know what I mean? In sense of punctuality, just having respect for people's times. I think that's what you can really just sum up punctuality, having respect for people's times, and knowing that they also have things in their life, and that there's an opportunity cost for every decision that you make. An opportunity cost being that there's a sacrifice or something that didn't happen because you made this decision. So when somebody was there, okay, somebody's here during my meeting, right? And we're having this meeting right now. I know there's an opportunity cost where they could have been using their time and attention for something else and within their own realities. And so let me be as punctual as I can. You know what I mean? And that being important as a leader, because you just want to have the value of respect for you and your people. And that'll go down into not only your family, your community, but your business. And you also have self-respect for yourself as well. Because you don't feel good about yourself when you know that you're late. Facts.
Right. Also as an entrepreneur, you want to be punctual with your customers. You know, as somebody who does one-on-ones and who does life coaching and things of that nature, I got to be there before them, because they're your new bosses. Your customers are your bosses. Like people think when they entrepreneur that they ain't got no boss. Incorrect.
Incorrect.
You done took out a lot of bosses now because they're the ones paying you.
Yeah, word.
You know, they're the ones paying you. Like either way, whoever you serving at the moment, of course you are your own boss and things of that nature. But at the same time, you want to make sure that as someone who comes to this world to serve, and we want to make sure that we are effective, efficient, and sufficient within our service. You know, definitely. And this brings us to. I don't know. Somebody grab the mic. Somebody grab the mic.
I could connect the dots like this is a crossword puzzle.
Okay.
Real talk. Let me see. I was actually gonna touch on another quality that tied into I'd say honesty. Honesty within yourself. You being realistic. You setting the time, and even down to the details of you know what? let me be early, because like you said, being early is being on time. So setting that alarm, let's say if you need to wake up an additional 15 minutes beforehand, you know, just the little things, but yo, they can have a significant result, a significant end result in your reality, you know, but just you taking the time to prepare for yourself and for the other person's time, as opposed to you coming unprepared and, you know, not ready. And now it's taken an additional 10 minutes out of their reality and their time. They could have used that time to read a quick chapter 1 from, let's say, whatever book they reading, you know, like the book they read, you know what I'm saying, just whatever. But it's just really getting down to that way of being and thinking, to where it's like, yo, you know what, let me think not only for myself, but I'm thinking for the next individual as well. You know? And that,
so now we get to this point where it's like, okay, so we know that the city sultan, the idea of the city sultan is confident. The city sultan knows how to effectively communicate. The city sultan is honest not only with others, but he's honest with himself. The city sultan is empathetic, knowing that empathy is an end feeling, is an end path that leads to the crystallization of harmony within himself, within his community, within his family. The city sultan is positive. You know what I mean? He comes with this reality, knowing that, and when he goes into reality, that he can transmute whatever situation into a situation that is for his betterment, right? And for the betterment of himself and people in a circle of influence. The city sultan is humble, but not humble in the sense of self-deprecating, but in the sense of balance. The city sultan has the ability to inspire because he knows that the ability to inspire comes from a place of being selfless, and that from that place of selflessness is where you gain the right to be in the ranks of people who have earned an enduring legacy. The city sultan is decisive. He has definite plans. The city sultan is focused. He concentrates and he knows exactly what his attention is going to, because he knows wherever he points his attention is what is going to actualize in terms of his mission, in terms of his purpose, and in terms of what he wants to create, and his concepts of beauty, success, happiness, and peace, truth, and wealth in his own life. The city sultan is also accountable, knowing that accountability is the ability to account for himself and his team. The city sultan is also punctual because he has respect not only for his own time, but for respect for people around him as well. The city sultan is a leader, and these are the qualities that he embodies and that we all must embody within our own realities. So in conclusion, bless, this is King Rock. Boom. Sound off, brothers.
Yes. This is Bliss.
Blue Lotus, triple threes, emphasis on the threes, eternally.
And this emerald stone, a walking crystal from the holy city. Peace and love.
And that concludes the episode tonight, y'all. I hope you enjoyed this. You know, enjoy the dialogue, enjoy the energy, enjoy the laughs, the connection. And until next time, ooh, let's get a little outro by King Ra. Yes. City Sultan.
Thank you all for these moments.
He's a leader. City Sultan. He's a believer. Peace.